Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello. Wednesday afternoon, that's right. Day 12. Yes, day 12 of a healthy mind, the 14-day challenge. So technically we've got, I'm throwing things around here. There we go. Apologies. We have got 3 days left of our challenge. And again, I just want to, from my side, say a massive thank you for joining us today, for taking time out of your day, 30 minutes out of your day, to be with yourself and to work on yourself. And I think it is such an incredible thing. And, we know that life is busy. You're busy. There's a whole bunch of other things you could be doing today, but you've chosen to do this. And I think it is really, really an incredible thing. So thank you from my side, and hopefully you're thanking yourself. So like I said, we are in day 12 of our 14 days. We've got 2 left after 3 left after today, 2 left after today, more like it. My math is very, very good. And I hope that it has been of great value to you. So just to throw forward a little bit for tomorrow, and then the last day, tomorrow we're going to look at something called sympathetic joy, and how that is another tool that you can put into your little toolbox, your little wellness toolbox. And then on Friday, we're going to bring it all together, and we're going to look at all the different tools that we put into that toolbox, and we'll slowly take them out as little reminders and hopefully help us in the self-care kit that we've put together over the last 14 days. So today I am super, super excited to introduce you to soon and fast becoming one of my favorite people. So Ashley is a consulting psychologist for our sister business here at Mindful Revolution. It's called Future Shift. Ashley's been involved with NGOs. She's been involved with educational spaces or in educational spaces. She's also done a lot of work in corporate South Africa and in big corporates, banking, etc., and really just an incredible human being who is here to speak to us today about connecting with ourselves, which I think is such an important part and something that we have been doing. And we sort of spoke a little bit through, and she took me through some of the stuff we're chatting about today, and I just cannot wait. So I'm super excited for you to be introduced to the content and be introduced to Ashley Cater. So Ashley, I am going to invite you on, and then I'm literally just going to fade into the background, and I'm going to give you the full 25 minutes that you can chat to us. So welcome. Thank you for being here, and you can take it away, friend.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Grant. I am just so excited to be here and to be talking a little bit around, really about connecting with yourself. So as I said, my name is Ashley Cater, and I think today is just an opportunity for us to really just take a second to connect with ourselves, because I know that we don't often do that, both in my personal life as well as in the people that I've interacted with throughout my career. This is one of the big key tools that I think is so important for really looking after our mental well-being. I just want to start here with a little quote that says, your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship you have. And this is so true. I often say to people, you see the world through what you see in yourself. You've heard the term rose-colored glasses. So those rose-colored glasses, it's what's going on inside. So everything that you do and everything that you interact with, whether it's the world, whether it's other people, it really starts with you. So this is why connection with yourself is so, so, so important. Now, I have 4 words for me that really sum up connecting with yourself. Those 4 words are introspect, reflect, connect, and respect. So in this presentation today and throughout the session, I'm kind of going to go through these 4 different aspects of connecting with yourself. So the first is introspect, and this is really a moment to intentionally turn inwards. We know that there's so much going on around us, so much that is outside of our control, whether it is COVID, whether it's vaccinations, whether it's work, whether it is, the people in your life that demand your time, energy, and effort. So it's important to take a moment to introspect. We then have reflect, and this is around just taking a moment every day to reflect on yourself and your mental well-being in real time. And I'm going to take you through a couple reflection questions on that. We then have connecting with your authentic self. And who is your authentic self? How do you know who your authentic self is? And I'm going to touch a little bit on a couple of reflections and some tips around that. And then lastly, respect, and this is really around respecting your self-care needs. What are your needs? How do you know what those needs are? And what can you do to respect and really honor those needs? So I want to maybe start with the kind of first part of this, and this is around introspection. And I wanted to take just a moment to introspect. Introspection is really often synonymous with, mindfulness. It is really the ability to be here, to be present, to be wherever you are, and just to acknowledge where you are. So I would like to start, if you can indulge me, with a little bit of a mindful moment, a little bit of a guided meditation. For some of you, it might be easy to close your eyes. For others, sometimes it's not as easy. So find an anchor, find something for you to just pay attention to as you go through this moment of introspection with me. Okay, so I invite you to just sit comfortably wherever you are. Either to close your eyes, to cast your eyes down, to just notice something in the room that grounds you. And we're going to start with 3 deep breaths. So deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. In through your nose and out through your nose. And then our final deep breath in through our nose. And we're just going to sigh it out through our mouths. Now I invite you just to arrive at the present moment and just notice your breath in its natural rhythm. Notice your body and how it feels. Notice the chair that you're sitting on and how it supports and holds you in this moment. Notice your feet and how they are grounded on the floor. Now turning inwards, I invite you just to notice how you are feeling. What are those emotions that are running through your body and through your mind and through your spirit right now? And we want to acknowledge them and just pay attention to them non-judgmentally. I invite you to name them. If you are feeling sad, just say, I notice that I'm sad. If you are feeling anxious, I notice the anxiety. If you're feeling frustrated, I notice the frustration. If you feel joy, I notice the joy. Whatever you are experiencing right now, just name it and notice it. If you find yourself with some worrying thoughts, some challenges that you are experiencing right now, just acknowledge them with compassion. And if you are experiencing some things in your life that are making you feel excited or joyful or calm, just notice them with gratitude. Remembering that introspection is really about turning inwards and focusing on where you're at in the present moment. Allow your feelings to soften. Don't allow yourself to feel shame or anger or frustration at what you're feeling. Just acknowledge them non-judgmentally. Acknowledge the good, acknowledge the bad. while also acknowledging that we as humans are neither. We are neither good nor bad for what we are feeling. We are just us, authentically us in this moment. Now, as we get ready to re-enter the session, we just want to set an intention of being consciously more introspective, an intention of turning inwards, especially when we feel chaos, an intention of just being kind to ourselves. Now we want to end off the way we started, with our 3 deep breaths. But this time, when you take a deep breath in, I want you to say, I am here. And with every deep breath out, I am enough. In, I am here. Out, I am enough. And our final deep breath in, I am here. And our final deep breath out, I am abundant. And when you're ready, I invite you to come back to our session. So thank you for allowing me to take you through just a little practice that I personally use when I need a moment to introspect. I know I often struggle a little bit with meditation in terms of closing my eyes, and I'm so anxious. And I sometimes find that just speaking myself through it and having something to anchor to stare at really helps me. Today, my anchor was actually my little cactus. It brings me great joy. Plants bring me great joy. So that's kind of how I spend my moments of introspection. And I urge you to find something to help you just have a moment to introspect, a moment of stillness, and just getting a sense of where you're at right now. So our second stage was really around reflection, and reflection also links to introspection. And this is really around reflecting on yourself and your mental well-being in real time. Now, when we think about mental well-being, I like to kind of think of it on a continuum. So this continuum is on a 1 to 10. So 1 being I'm feeling absolutely terrible, 10 being I'm feeling phenomenal. Now, the important thing about this is we are constantly going to fluctuate on this continuum based on what's happening in our lives and based on what's happening in our environment. So what'd be interesting for you right now is to ask yourself, what is my number today? If I were to share, I think my number today would be a 5. Didn't sleep very well. I actually woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, so I'm a little bit tired, but I'm neither here nor there. Another thing that I think is really important for me is not just to think about a number, but to start to really unpack the entirety or everything that encompasses your mental well-being at any given point in time. So I've got a couple of questions that I put here for you guys. And it would be interesting for you just to, while you're listening and while you're watching this session, just to think a little bit around, the answers to these questions. I often use these as journal prompts for myself as well. In my reflection, I find it helpful to write things down. So if we were to reflect on your emotions right now, you need to ask yourself, how am I really feeling? So outside of the emotions or how I'm presenting to others, how do I really feel? And what is the predominant emotion that I experienced lately? Then when we think about potentially your triggers, what are the situations that trigger uncomfortable emotions for me? And further to this, when these emotions are triggered, how do I generally respond? Then we need to look at our own self-perception. So how do we view ourselves? So who am I outside of my job and the other roles that I play? So who is Ashley outside of being a psychologist, a colleague, a partner, a friend, a mother, a daughter? Who is Ashley? So who are you? How is my self-talk? So we are constantly speaking to ourselves, telling us messages about ourselves, whether it is you need to lose weight, you need to do better at work, you are amazing at what you do. So we constantly have conversations with ourselves. So what is your self-talk like? And what does it mean for the way in which you think about yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel bad about yourself? Do you feel neutral? When we think about our thoughts, what are the predominant thoughts that occupy your mind lately? And when you are thinking those thoughts, do you acknowledge them non-judgmentally? Or do you really ruminate on these thoughts or beat yourself up for them? Now, reflecting on the enjoyment that you have in your life, think about which activities bring you joy, bring you happiness, bring you a sense of calm. When we think about purpose, do you have a good sense of your purpose in life, or things that feel like they really bring you a deep sense of meaning in your daily life? And then lastly, if you think about your life holistically, from your work life, your personal life, your relationships, how you feel about yourself, when we think about the various areas of your life, which area of your life do you think is struggling the most right now or needs a little bit of extra TLC or attention? Now, some of these might have been some really interesting questions you've never asked yourself. Some of them might have evoked a little bit of an interesting sensation. I often say if something feels like it makes you feel something, that there is something there, it might be a point of development. And often these are really great ways of getting to know yourself, getting to know where you are in real time, getting to know your points of development, the things that make you tick, as well as areas that you might never have thought of needing to address, but actually you do need to address. For me, I think my favorite one is areas of concern, because often when I feel like I'm in chaos, I feel like everything's in chaos. And it feels like so much to reconnect back to myself and to fix. And often when I ask myself which area is struggling the most right now, it gives me one focus point, one anchor that is affecting my mental well-being that I can work on, and just give that area a little bit of TLC. For me, probably this week, it's probably sleep. My sleep is struggling the most. So I know that that's going to be something that I focus on a little bit more than everything else. And then we start to work on it from there. So if there were any of these that stood out for you, it's important to think a little bit deeper. And we are going to build on this a little bit, but to think about what are the things that I can proactively do to start to address these things. So our third stage is really around connecting. And this is really around connecting with your authentic self. Now, so often we don't know what our authentic self is. We spend majority of our lives with an emotional mask. You see it in meetings. You might be having a really terrible day. And as soon as you get on the meeting, you perk up and you're like, hi, everyone, I'm great, thanks. Fine, thank you. When actually deep down, you might not be feeling so great. So it's important to figure out who you are outside of the mask that you are showing to everyone else, but also how you are living your life and how you want to live your life outside of everyone else's expectations of you. So I have a couple of questions here that I wanted to share with you that I've personally used. I've been on a lifelong exploration journey and just really trying to figure out who I am and working closer and closer to that authentic self. Notice that I say journey because it's not a destination, it really is a journey. And these are really some important questions that I have written in my own journal to reflect on and to get to know who the authentic me is. Who's that inner child? So the first one is, how would your life be different if you let go of the fear holding onto you? And why this is so important is we have so much fear and anxiety that often holds us back from living out who we really want to be or what we really want to do. And as soon as we can envision what our life would be like and what would be different, that also lets us know the things that we are holding back or the ways in which we are not honoring our authentic self in the way in which we live. The second one is, who would you want to be if you could ignore everyone else's expectations or perceptions of you? Again, we often present in ways and do things that are so linked to what other people might think of us or what other people's expectations are of us. And we often put our own needs and wants last place. So when you think about who you would want to be, if you could really ignore that, that lets you know a little bit of the parts of yourself that you might not be living authentically. My third question for you is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, I know in my life, I've spent a lot of time, really conscious of failure and afraid of failure, afraid of rejection. And I think a lot of us often do that we stifle what we do because we're so afraid of failure. My new saying is choose courage over comfort. And I'm probably going to say that multiple times in the next 10 minutes. But really, growth happens outside of your comfort zone. What is it that you are stopping yourself from being or doing because you're so afraid of failure? And then lastly, what does your best or favorite self look like? We all want to be our best selves. You hear this all the time, living my best life. I want to be my best self. Amazing. But do we really take time to reflect on what that is, who that is? What does it look like? And second to that, what is our path to getting there? So just some tips, just linked to these, is tune into your inner sense of yes or no. Think about times when you want to say yes, but you actually say no, or you want to say no, but you actually say yes. Those are times when you might not be living authentically and true to what you mean, true to the boundaries that you want to set. So set boundaries where needed. Say what you mean what you say. I think a lot of self-work is really linked to observing your patterns, observing how you respond, and consciously wanting to reflect on how you can do things differently. Practice self-compassion and self-love. I know in the process of reconnecting with yourself, rediscovering yourself, or discovering yourself for the first time, there might be some things about yourself that you realize that are, oh, I need to develop that. That's not such a pretty part of myself. We all are not perfectly wrapped presents with a beautiful bow on it. We all have areas where we need to develop, and in the process of growing and connecting and reconnecting and discovering ourselves, we also want to give ourselves grace. Know that a lot of our unhealthy patterns or a lot of the things that we've done in the past have served us at that point, but potentially it's not serving us now. So we thank that part of ourselves for the lesson that we've learned, and we want to grow in self-love and self-compassion. Strive to learn new things to bring yourself closer to your goals. Again, it's really linked to what is the path to my best self. Visualizing that path and thinking, what is that one thing I can do to bring me just one step closer to my best or my favorite self? And then again, step out of your comfort zone. Explore the world beyond your fears. Choose courage over comfort. Take the leap. It is often incredibly scary, but it is often where a lot of growth happens and where you can meet yourself outside of your fears. I think the last step for me was really around this honoring of self-care. And I wanted to share my 3 magic questions that I use to connect with myself every day. And it's really a quick check-in that I do every morning. So the first question is, where am I at today? So where am I at really, outside of what I'm telling everyone else? Secondly, what are my needs, whether it's my physical or my emotional or my spiritual needs? And thirdly, what can I do to intentionally honor my needs today? And why that works for me is because my needs and connect with myself is going to change. So today, for example, I have had very little sleep. So intentionally honoring my needs today looked like having a nap after the session, which I'm definitely going to do, or going to bed early. There are times when I feel that I am just really worked hard, my brain feels like mush, and actually honoring my needs today looks like binge watching Netflix. Or it looks like just going for a walk in nature. Or it looks like me time. So honoring those needs really starts with the reflection. So your 3 magic questions are, where am I at today? What are my needs? And what can I intentionally do to honor my needs today? Which links to our last section, which really is around respecting and honoring your self-care needs. Now, I know that people often think of self-care as a bubble bath, a spa day, a trip to the Maldives. And yes, those can definitely be self-care, but self-care doesn't have to be something overly luxurious or overly expensive. We often look at self-care also as something that we gift ourselves because we earned it after working a very long day or month or year. Self-care is actually not that. Self-care is something you do to invest in yourself and your relationship with yourself. And it is something that you should be doing proactively and intentionally every day. And for me, what really links is these 8 different dimensions of well-being. And I've put all of them here for you to see. So these are the different dimensions of well-being, and your self-care needs can fall into any, all, or some of these. So for example, emotional, these are just examples, and this list is non-exhaustive, but emotional self-care can look at gratitude, forgiveness, journaling, self-reflection, self-work, therapy. Occupation could be looking at, finding meaning and purpose in your job, professional development, taking breaks during your day as well as during the year. Intellectual, reading, one of my favorite hobbies, learning new skills, research. Environmental is really around making your environment conducive, making it something that feels right for you, whether that is decluttering, decorating, cleaning. Financial, budgeting, saving, being conscious of your spending habits. Social is really around relationships. So how do you deepen relationships? How do you learn about relationships, set boundaries in relationships, make new relationships? Physical can be sleep, nutrition, exercise, and then spiritual things such as meditation, yoga, and nature. And again, as I said, this list is not exhaustive, but I think one of the biggest takeaways for me around self-care is self-care reminds me of a bank account. So if you think about yourself as a bank account, you are a bank account, you're an internal bank account. Now, I just want to use an analogy. If you think about your actual bank account that your salary goes into, and someone withdraws R1 million from your bank account right now, what would happen? So for me personally, I would definitely go into R1 million of overdraft, minus $1 million, 100%. However, if you have been depositing money into that bank account every day, and you now have 10 million Rand, and then someone withdraws $1 million, yes, $1 million is still a lot, but you are not going into overdraft. Now, everything that requires your time, energy, and effort withdraws from your internal bank account of resources in different amounts. And self-care and introspection and connecting with yourself are the things that actually deposit into your internal bank account. So you wouldn't let your actual bank account intentionally go into the negative, into overdraft. So don't let your emotional bank account go into overdraft. And this for me is really, really the importance of reflecting, introspecting, connecting, and then respecting your self-care needs. So if there's anything that you can take from today, please remember that you don't have to do all of this at once. If you're doing everything at once, it feels overwhelming. Start with one thing today. I just wanted to end off by sharing something that I actually saw on social media just before this. It said, every action requires a certain amount of energy. The more energy required, the less likely it is to occur. If your goal is to do 100 push-ups per day, that's a lot of energy. In the beginning, when you're motivated and excited, you can muster the strength to get started. But after a few days, such massive effort seems exhausting. Meanwhile, sticking to a habit of doing 1 push-up per day requires almost no energy to get started. And the less energy a habit requires, the more likely it is to occur. So start small, start with one thing to do to reconnect with yourself, to rediscover yourself, and then you can build on it. Okay, so that is it from me. I just want to see and open up the floor and see, Grant, if you would like to close off today's session for us today.
I love that last slide particularly. I was scurrying to write little notes about that, so we'll make sure that we send you that last slide. I think it is absolutely fantastic, and it got so many great little snippets in there. So, and again, just remembering all the days that we've had together and everything that we've put in sort of to these last 14 days and how they really all come together with what Ashley spoke about today. So absolutely loved it. Thank you so much, Ashley. Really appreciate it. We're definitely going to see you pretty soon on another session. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Thank you. So like I said, tomorrow, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about sympathetic joy, and then we're going to wrap it all up on day 14. So have an amazing day. Look after yourself. Take some of these moments that Ashley has given us. Go and practice them. Look after yourself. Self-care, so important. Little moments, right? Little push-ups, as she spoke about. Love it. Cool. We'll see you pretty soon. Thank you so much, Ashley. And thank you for looking after yourself and for being here with us. See you soon.